Welcome to Goof Duels. I am ACP, and I am here with Michael Lux, who made top 8 at the live GOAT format event, Grand Prix Orlando. You might know Michael Lux as a Shonen Jump champion from 2006. That was the format immediately following GOAT format. So definitely knows a thing or two about these old formats. So Lux, I know you don't really play a ton of GOAT format these days, but you still manage to do pretty well. So walk me through like the pre-event, what testing you did and why you decided to play Warriors.
I actually had no idea what I was going to play up until about 2 a.m. right before the event. So about 8 hours before the event. I just looked up top 8 deck list. Figured I wanted to make Nobleman's dead game one because every deck was playing two Noblemen. And I think Warriors is the best at doing that. Actually, probably one of the few decks that does that in the current meta. So I threw together a top 8 Warrior list, switched up a couple cards that I thought would be better. That's something else that appealed to me with the deck list that I chose was I wanted to have decrees in the board, and I
Yeah.
saw that spies in the board for a warrior deck where it was kind of the norm, which I think is a new school tech compared to what we saw back in 2005. I didn't personally know how good spies were against warriors until playing against them and having them be kind of annoying to get through. So if I were to build this again moving forward, I'd probably keep that in mind now having some experience.
Given, of course, now that you have the experience from the event, you made top 8 with Warriors. I mean, how do you feel about like Warriors as a deck? Because I feel like aggro decks in Yu-Gi-Oh as a whole are just historically slept on. People like, oh, if you're just summoning a monster and attacking, like that's lame. That's a helmet deck or whatever term people use now. What do you think?
I don't. I would disagree with that sentiment that it's kind of helmet deck or however you want to refer to it. And looking at other games versus Yu-Gi-Oh, other games, aggro decks usually like low to the ground, whereas in Yu-Gi-Oh, there's no resource system, so it's kind of just throwing all the best efficient kind of beat sticks with effects into a deck, and Warrior Toolbox in general really fits the bill for the token aggro deck of the GOAT format, just because it's so versatile, and it has the tools necessary to get through pretty much any board. I personally think after this event that Warriors are the best deck in GOAT format. Um, Granted, very small sample size, zero preparation, so take that with a humongous grain of salt. But yeah, I think that fine-tuned, this deck has the tools to beat anything that I've seen in the meta. And given, GOAT format is a closed system, you can't really add anything to it. I think it's definitely a mainstay as far as top pick for the meta.
Warriors have definitely gotten the best results in terms of placing over like the last 2 months. It's not even close. Like they're just winning like half the tournaments at this point. Of course, Warriors did end up eventually winning this tournament. From talking to other players though, like when I did my interview with Matt and I did my interview with Marcial, they kind of acted like, oh, the field was just flooded with Warriors. Like everyone was playing Warriors, everyone was prepared for it. I don't know if maybe that was just their brackets. Like, did you play a lot of mirrors and did you feel like Warriors were just kind of the deck of this event?
In my small sample size, I did play against Martial, I did play against Matt, and I did play against Danny Fitzgerald, the eventual winner.
Mm-hmm.
So I can speak a little bit intelligently to what was going on there. I didn't see Warriors everywhere. I played against it twice, once in the final round of Swiss, and then once in the top 8 against Danny Fitzgerald. I think Chaos. I call a lot of Chaos Turbo.
With the main deck, are there any card choices that you want to talk about as either overperforming or underperforming, or maybe like something new that you learned about that card? Or
The deck list that I net deck pretty much. I copied 39 of the 40 in the main. The only thing I changed was I removed a Zombira for a DD Assailant just because I have a, D assailant has a place in my heart. obviously with the Shonen Jump win. But in hindsight, that was actually a mistake, and that should have been a Zombira. And there were multiple situations where I would have rather it had been a Zombira. I really liked the Ninja Grandmaster Sasuke, obviously. Definitely did more than I thought it was going to do. But now seeing how the meta is with Grapekeeper Spies and Spirit Reapers and all sorts of high defense creatures that people are setting, definitely something that overperformed for me. The Donzalug kind of underperformed. There were some certain games where I got a card out of someone's hand, but unlike in Goats back in the day, like a Donzalug hit doesn't really feel as backbreaking as it used to. Like when you attacked over a Sangan and you got a card out of their hand. Like sometimes they just like get search the answer or the Donzalug dies summarily dies the following turn and it went 1 for 1 with the card in your opponent's hand. So I think it's kind of a necessary evil if you're gonna play BLS and possibly some sort of Chaos Sorcerers. If I were to build this deck again, I would definitely have one Chaos Sorcerer in the main, and the Donzalug would probably have to stay also. And then everything else just seemed kind of stock. The Solemn Judgments definitely overperformed, and I think the Solemn Judgments are one of the reasons that this deck is the best deck. I think if Goat decks and Chaos Turbo decks were to main Solemns, I don't know if it would work for them, but I felt like I was at an advantage over other decks that weren't playing Solemn Judgment. I think it was kind of like that during the Teledad format too, where it's just make your board, set your solemns, and it's very difficult to overcome that. Dust Shoot overperformed, obviously. Dust Shoot is pretty amazing, especially when you open it, which I was doing a lot of in that tournament. Um, the Book of Moon kind of overperformed. I was citing in a bunch of decrees, so when I was doing that, I don't know if it was correct, but the book was obviously better then. But just being able to stop something, like flip a breaker down to prevent them from doing what they were going to do, or if they were attacking with a kinetic, flipping that down, and then being able to nobleman, keeping your noblemans live against warriors game one is kind of important. And I was doing a lot of that with book. The Blade Knights, sorry, the Blade Knights overperformed significantly. That's definitely the best warrior in the deck. That's why there's three. Um, but yeah, I felt like in most situations where they didn't have a spy on the board, I wanted to draw a Blade Knight. Um, and I would play probably four if I could.
I mean, I guess I'll ask you about like the upstart goblins. I mean, were there just any games where it's like, oh, if my opponent was at, I don't know, say 1800 instead of 2800, I would just be so much better off here. Or, oh, if they were just at 2000 instead of 3000, I'd be so much better off here.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Not that I can particularly remember. The game specifically that I remember drawing two upstarts, I won them all. Like game one against Donald Kiss, uh, game one against Martial, game one against Danny Fitz. I've won all those games. So like I'm not gonna say that I won because I drew upstart goblins. And I can't of the games that I did lose, I don't particularly remember drawing an excessive amount of upstart goblins. It's possible that I drew one, but I don't think the games that I lost were relatively close. Like I don't think that they
Yeah.
were. My opponent was at like less than 1,000 or less than 2,000, where I had drawn one or two upstart goblins respectively.
What decks did you play against in the tournament? And what were your record against them?
Round one, I played against Donald Kiss, and he
Oh,
always
God.
plays. And he always plays Flip Chaos with like Decoiches and spies and on all that stuff. And it was actually a pretty close match. I won a close game one after drawing almost no monsters for the first 10 or so turns, and then he crushed me pretty hard game two. And then I think game three he kind of tilted. I opened a duo dust shoot. He kind of just made some really questionable choices after that. And then round two I played against someone online named Jack Sworn. Everyone was wearing name tags at the event, so
Yeah, I saw.
if chaos variant of sorts. And I think I 2-0'd him. And then round three, I played against local Dylan Ramsumye. Yeah, and he was playing goats, and I drew very well against him. I wasn't relatively close, but I didn't feel like I was able to counteract his metamorphosis. I had books when I needed them, rings when I needed them. And I drew my Trinity pieces. And then against Martial, I think you got the scoop from him when you interviewed him. I he was dead to my second nobleman off the top when I had no other cards in hand. I just like flipped off the top of my deck. And then round five, I actually got a feature match against zombies. The commentator said that it was kind of unfavorable for warriors and that zombies should have a favored matchup there, but I didn't really feel that way.
I
I mean,
mean,
as long as you don't.
it is supposed to be favorable for zombies just because if the zombie deck is playing, say, 3 Pyramid Turtle, 3 Giant Rat, Warriors has a pretty hard time getting through that.
That's fair.
If they just summon a Giant Rat and say go, like, what exactly you're gonna do? Like, okay, you have one DD Warrior Lady, but then they have like 6 recruiters, right? So you're obviously gonna run out of Warrior Ladies before they run out of recruiters.
Yeah, maybe I was just very fortunate. I know game one, I had a Ninja Grandmaster Sasuke on the board for must have been forever, must have been 8 or 9 turns. I just, like attack into a Reaper, kill the Reaper with the Ninja Grandmaster. Next turn, attack into a Reaper, kill the Reaper next turn.
Uh,
Attack into a Spy, kill a Spy, kill a Spy. It just never died. He just never had an answer to it.
that's
Um,
yeah, that's weird. Also, Kaikus can be good against zombies just because, while there's a Kaiku in play, your opponent can't activate Book of Life.
I think if the Warrior deck is tuned well, it shouldn't really have problems. Yeah, and game two when I won, I boarded in Decree and looking back at that, taking a break from the match breakdowns, the decrees in the board may not have been the best idea, or at least the way I was using them may not have been the best idea. I was like smokescreen sighting out all my traps every game too,
Huh.
and that may not have been, in hindsight, the best idea. Most of the games that I lost were with that configuration. I ended up winning almost all of my game ones throughout the entire tournament. So that kind of like gave me a buffer game to like lose with the decrees, and I just boarded them back out on the play and boarded back into dust shoots and open dust shoot. So, yeah, yeah. So then 5-0, I play against Matt Ossie. We were the only two undefeated at the time. So he was playing a teched out kind of goat control deck, and he beat me pretty handily 2-0. Game one, I didn't really have much play. I remember him just like playing 1,000 eyes restrict, and I just couldn't kill it. And then game two was really weird. I ended up getting really low on life early, but had a ton of card advantage. But like I was down to 125 life points. He has spies in his deck, and he has all this stuff I can't attack into. I ended up making a crucial misplay late in the game that cost me, where he has a Sangan up and he has a face down, and I don't know what the face down is, but I'm pretty sure it's something that I don't want to attack. So I have a DD Warrior Lady and have a choice where I can either attack and remove the Sangan, or I can attack the face down. And because of my life, I went and attacked the Sangan and removed it. But his set was actually a Sinister Serpent, and he ended up using that Serpent for his top deck Metamorphosis and Creature Swap in the following turns to bury me pretty hard. So if I had just removed the Serpent, I don't know if I would have won per se, but I think I would have been in a much better position given the significant card advantage I had. Round seven, I played against a warrior deck, and I beat him pretty quickly. It was just a warrior mirror, and I don't think that either of our decks were better or worse, or more prepared or less prepared. I had one kinetic in my board, and I think he had one or more. Like he would attack something with a kinetic over for damage, and then I'd like attack it with a kaiku and kill it. There was just a bunch of back and forth. So then going into the top eight, I ended up playing Danny Fitzgerald. Apparently, he's been on a tear playing in GOAT format tournaments online.
He's pretty clearly the best player right now. Like, in terms of results, it's not even close. Like, not just this year, but last year as well.
But yeah, game one against him, I beat him pretty handily. I remember we both dust shooted each other. We both left with nothing. And I think I just top decked more creatures than he did. And then game two, I think he killed me on like turn 3 or 4. It was just like a sack for Mobius, snatch steal your thing, ring for game type of thing. I think I was at
Mm-hmm.
64 and he hit me. He got me. It was 64 exactly or something. Game three, I actually should have won. So I opened Pot of Greed, Trap Dust Shoot. I was in a good position pretty much the entire game. It got to a point where I prematured a Blade Knight, and I set a reinforcement to his one back row, and I had a book set, and I attacked at his thing, and then he flips for the pro heavy, and I think I had no cards in hand or one card in hand at that point. Like I booked the Blade Knight so it would survive, and then you just summon the Kaiku and attack. If I just don't set that Rhoda, I think I'm in a much more favorable position to win. He ended up top decking a spy, and just killed me with spies to my top deck like nothing. So it was a significant misplay on my part, playing into the pro heavy. But he played well. He played fantastic, and he ended up winning the tournament. So kudos to him, and definitely well deserved.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think maybe if you had more experience, you would have done better there. I mean, maybe there's next time,
Yeah, I had just such a fantastic time playing that live tournament, seeing all of my old friends from 15, 20 years ago. Yeah, I'd definitely be playing some more goats in the future.
Thanks for joining me. I think I'll let you go.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.